Mimi kwa jina ni Sabina Akinyi Masogo. Naomba serikali tusaidie. Mtu ananyang'anya nyumba yangu iko kwa Bondo hapa. Mimi nataka serikali tusaidie. Samba ni ya bwana yangu. Wuon parwa to Nyasaye nosekao. Wuon parwa ni noweya gi ot moro Bondo kama nyalo konyrago gi nyithindo kata yor chiemo. To asebedo gi sida e wach odni nikech ng'ama ne giriwore e odni mane gigedogo. Koro lokre ok dwa nena kendo ok dwa kata winjo wachna. En ema odwaro ni mondo odong' gi odno kende. Kendo bende awinjo ni osewinjre go ria moro. Odwa uso ne odni. To an to kiaya. Ok odwa kata winjo wachna. Aseyalo wach odni kachako gi dala. Asedhi nyaka e sirikal. Manyicha asedhi nyaka e court. To pok aneno gimoro maber ma obiro na matang' awach ni odno. Aneno mana ka gima odno ma imayago. Nikech ka koro nyocha ong'ad bura to wach obiro ni cases obiro ni aloyo ng'at cha bende owuok noloyo. Koro akia ni ng'ano ma koro wach ni koro tama na tim nang'o. Koro an akwayo mana sirikal ni mondo giyie gikonya. Giduogna lowo mar jaoda. Mano kende lowo manoweyago. Onge gimoro amora manoweyago. Odno kende to gi dala kama dake ma kata kama nyalo puro onge. Koro an akwayo sirikal ni mondo mi kadi gikonya to gikonya. Lobno oduogna e nying chuora. Ayud kaka nyithindo nyalo dhi sikul kata kaka nyalo chiemo.
Kwa majina naitwa Jackton Otieno Masogo. I'm the son of Masogo, Domnic Masogo Umaya from Bondo, Barkowino. We have an issue which has been disturbing us for a long time. My father had a property within the town which they share with his in-law. My father had a land, then he called his in-law to come help him build. So they came together, build this property in town. So they have been collecting rent from that property for several years. Then ilifika a point when my father now was sick. He had a throat cancer and he wanted money that the hospital transferred us to Tenwek where we could go and he could get the operation there. Tulikuwa tunataka pesa. So when we went to the property, the tenant there, so that we can get something, so that we can take my father to the hospital, they told us that they don't know us because by then Awala is the one who was taking money from that property. We had to call Awala because we wanted money. Awala told us that by then they never have that money. My father sent me to go and pick the title deed because there was a chama who agreed that they can offer us with a loan, but they needed something like security which they could have so that they can give us that money to help us take my father to the hospital in Tenwek. We needed around 24,000. When I went to Awala's home, Awala told me that that title deed that my father want is he kept it somewhere where he cannot retrieve it by that time. I came back and gave my father that information. The next day, I and my mother carried my father to the Awala's home for the same reason. They talked, my father and Awala talked, and Awala, the same language he used for me, Awala told my father that this title deed is not somewhere he can get, and he offered us that he will give us money to take my father to the hospital. By that day, he gave us 1,500. That the following day, he could send the rest. When we came back, the next day, Awala sent someone with 1,500 with a goat. Now it was 3,000. 3,000 could not help us take my father to the hospital. My father, by January, that one was 2015, December. By January, my father passed. My mother now was here, remaining here to look for this property, because by then I was still in school. I need money so that I was in Form 4. I need money to pay my school fee. My mother started following up this issue of this property, because now my father is normal. My mother is the one who is remaining to look for this property on behalf of my father. So from there is where now we find out that this man, this Awala, don't want to give us this title deed because he had changed this title deed into his name. We could not get it because he had already changed this title deed into his name. When we did the search, we find out that the name in the title deed is now Joseph Agola Adundo, not Domnic Masogo Umaya. We start following up this issue. We took him to chief, where he said that he cannot come to chief camp because he called my mother's in-law. So that issue should be taken back to the home, so that what were home they can listen to that case, not in chief's camp. My mother did that, and my grandfather, who was remaining, called him, and they sat. They discussed that issue 3 times in my grandfather's home. The verdict was that we are going to that property. That property is a building in town there. He had the front door and some 5 back doors. So the verdict was that Awala to take the front door and my mother to take the back door, the 5 back doors. When we went there, we find out that Awala has already gone there and told that mother that he don't want to see us in that property again. So this case has been going this way. We took him to DO's office. We tried to solve that issue. The issue went well, and the property was to be separated, divided, so that my mother has some doors that he can earn, and Awala also to have some doors that he can earn. The title deed, which was bearing Awala's name, was supposed to be now to be shared between Awala and Sabina. So Awala agreed to give my mother some doors, back doors, 4 back doors, where he can earn some rent, and he took the front door and the back door. On the issue of title deed, he told us that we should forget about that title deed, because that property now he owns it. To him, he was just helping us now. That the property now was his, and these 4 back doors, it was just a help that he was now giving to us. So this issue has been just disturbing us like that, because we hear that Awala do go there with some people who want to buy that property. So we decided to take this case to court. Someone help us to hire for us a lawyer who has been presenting our case, who has present our case into court. So the case has been in court for something like 1.5 years, and by June this year, on date C26, the judgment was read in court. And the judgment which was read is that Sabina Akinyi Masogo, who is my mother, won the case. He filed into the court. Some days later, when we went, 10 days after the judgment was delivered in court, we went to take a degree so that we could serve Awala with the order and the land register with the order to rectify the land, the parcel, the title D. We found out that there was another judgment on the same day that was delivered by the same court. So it was a surprise when we went there. We found that now there are two judgments. We have a judgment that we won the case, and Joseph Awala also had another ruling, a judgment that he won the case. So we have been in a dilemma that, so which we were asking ourselves, which one of the two judgment is now genuine, because as we have our judgment showing us that we won that case, there is another judgment here also we are having that Awala won the case. So we are just asking the government or the judiciary to help us, because we feel, or where I am now, I feel that there was no justice that was served in the law court of Bondo, because a professional judge cannot sit down to write or to make two judgment on favor of both parties. And my plea to Chief Justice Martha Koome, we feel that we are still back. There is no justice which are being delivered in these courts if things like this can still happen in our country. I want you to look into this case, Madam Justice, Madam Chief Justice. Help us so that we can find justice on this case. Because right now, I don't know if this parcel of land is still ours, because it was ancestral land, and this Joseph Awaya Adundo never bought it. When we presented the case into court, now here comes to judgment, Madam Justice, Chief Justice. Help us so that we find justice from this, our judiciary, our law court. Because if things like this can still happen into our law courts, then we feel that our judiciary is still not independent. We want judiciary to be independent, so that even if you are a poor, even if you are an orphan, even if you are a widow, you can have hope in the judiciary that if you have a case in the judiciary, what you will have from the judge as a judgment should be honesty and transparency. Thank you.
Jadi beru kumani beresha.
Yako inakaje? 49 hayo ni mingi. 49% ni mingi.
Mana kweno ore mano miye. Omiye nyako bochako miye lo.
There is Amwich. Not Amwich, there is kuna Kifiato.
Narona.
Then Rona Foundation. Kumeka kwa nyuma mara ya.
Kawana tigolo gia de kutbwana gigara.
Nataka kuona neno choni, nikaona pe ober.
Donyo. Donyo mi melal.